evening, everyone, and thank you for watching VATV. My name is Phương Oanh, and today is October 15, 2014. VATV is the voice of Vietnamese Americans in the greater Boston area. It is sponsored by VietAid, Vietnamese American Initiative for Development. You can watch us live on BNN Network every Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Channel 9 if you have Comcast, and Channel 15 if you have RCN. The first half of our 1 hour weekly program is going to be conducted in Vietnamese, and the second half is in English. But for tonight's program, it's actually reversed. So we're going to do the first half in English and the second half in Vietnamese. You can also go on to bnntv.org to watch us live. And if you happen to miss any of our previous television program, it is rebroadcasted on Sunday at 5 p.m., Monday at 1 p.m., and Tuesday at 11 a.m. And to watch all of our shows, you can go to our main website, which is viet8.org. During the show, you can also call in anytime at 617-708-3290. Again, the number is 617-708-3290 if you have any questions for us or our guests that we have on today. And for today's program, an important topic that we're going to go over is ballot question number 4. And we're very honored and excited to have back into our television program tonight is Mr. Louis Finfer, who is the director of Massachusetts Communities Action Network, which also stands for MCAN. Did I say right? MCAN. Yes. So welcome back again.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. So can you please share with us exactly what is ballot question number 4? What is earned sick time?
Well, there's a story behind it. Ballot question 4. Voters will get to vote on November 4th, and if they vote yes, which we're hoping they do, almost 1 million people who have jobs in Massachusetts get no sick days, 0 sick days at their jobs. They're mostly people who work in restaurants, fast food places, and retail stores, and that puts them in a real bind. If their children are sick, if they stay home and take care of their children, they lose their pay. And if they can't afford to do that, they don't feel good about not helping their families. So this proposal would allow each person who works full-time 5 sick days a year, and they would be paid sick days, and they could use them to take care of themselves when they're sick, their children when they're sick, or any relatives who are sick. And there's a break for small businesses. Small businesses of less than 11, the sick days are unpaid. But if the business is 11 or more, the sick days would be paid. There's a story about the Vietnamese involvement in this issue I can tell too, but I want to stop in case you have another question about the proposal right now.
Okay. Well, I'll go over some questions that we're mainly concerned, and then I'll talk about the Vietnamese involvement with the ballot question number 4. So basically based on your experience with the past and in the present, how is this practice in the present business compared to before?
You mean the practice of sick days?
Yes.
Well, the good news is 70% of people get sick days in their jobs. So that's good, and they obviously use it to take care of themselves and their families. But the not good news is 30% don't. And it usually breaks down by people who have salaries, who either they're in a more middle class job or upper management, but most middle class people get sick days in their jobs. But people who work for hourly wages tend to not get sick days. So it's really the low wage earners who mostly do not get sick days. And it's not fair because everybody has to take care of themselves and their families. And it's not fair from a moral and a religious and a justice that people don't have access to sick days.
Okay. My question is, I've been working, let's say, for an hourly wage, and I've actually done salary before, and with hourly, I guess it depends on how big the company is that right?
If the company is 11 or more, then if you work enough hours, you would get 5 sick days. If you work part-time, depending on the number of hours you work, you might qualify for 1, 2, 3 sick days. If the company is less than 11, they still have to allow employees sick days, and they can't retaliate against them, which sometimes does happen, unfortunately, but they wouldn't have to pay the person for the sick days if the company is small, less than 11 employees. But if it's more than 11 employees, if they don't already give sick days, they would have to allow people up to 5 a year.
Okay. Now, we're trying to protect, obviously, employees. Have you had a chance to talk to the business owner point of view or aspect about this question?
Well, we certainly are aware of it. We do have business support, though. A prominent statewide business organization called the Alliance for Business Leadership that has 170 business executives is backing this because they think it's good for business to provide these benefits. Employees are going to be, if employees are sick or their kids are sick, they're worrying about that, and it's hard to do their jobs. So if they have sick days, then they can concentrate on doing their jobs when they're there most of the year. It also, they're going to spend the, if they're not going to, they're going to get paid sick days, then they're going to be able to spend that money back in the economy, and that's going to help businesses. If they don't get paid when they're sick, then they can't spend that money back in the economy. So, but there are a number of small businesses are supporting us, and large businesses. Partners Healthcare, which runs hospitals like Mass General Hospital and Brigham and Women's Hospital, is the largest employer in Massachusetts. They have over 50,000 employees, and they have endorsed Question 4. They're also saying vote yes on Question 4 because of the healthcare reasons. We can also talk about the healthcare reasons for Question 4 too.
Okay. So why does that appear in this petition on November 4th?
The process, usually groups try to get, if you try to work on something to pass a law, you go to the legislature and you work with legislators to file bills, and you come out at hearings and you come out and organize support for them. But in the case of earned sick time, the legislature was unwilling to pass this for 8 years. This bill has been before them, and they chose not to pass it any of these years. And that's mostly because some of the, what we call the power of some of the business organizations to block things. So in kind of an extraordinary effort, a coalition of community groups, unions, and religious groups decided to put it on the ballot. And to do that, we had to collect, we collected 150,000 signatures of voters in a very short amount of time. We only had 93 days to collect the signatures, but we had an all-volunteer effort with about 7,000 people working on it across the state, including some very important groups in the Vietnamese community, like Viet Aid, and churches that have large Vietnamese memberships, like St. Mark's in Dorchester and St. Ambrose in Dorchester, worked on gathering the signatures. So once you gather enough signatures, you qualify to put it on the ballot. And it becomes like the voters get to vote on law. Usually the legislature votes on laws, but if you get all those signatures and qualify for the ballot, then all the people who are voters get to decide on whether the law will pass or not.
Okay, so you guys been working hard with 93 days.
Yes, we had to collect all those signatures. People worked very hard. They collected signatures at religious services. People volunteered and went to stand in front of supermarkets to collect signatures, and collected them on the MBTA, all kinds of places, because you had to work hard to do that.
I do think it's extremely important, and I didn't realize it's so important that a lot of people actually don't know about this, because I've always been working for a larger company, excuse me, and I always get my sick days.
Right. When we were collecting signatures, some people like you who had those benefits, they said, sometimes they'd say, a lot of times, isn't it the law that people have to get sick days?
Yeah.
And it isn't, unfortunately, for that 30%, which is almost 1 million workers, don't get sick days. So
share with us this 30%. I mean, we were talking about earlier, you mentioned salary.
Yes.
And isn't it voluntary from the employee standard point where they say, I understand, I'm on salary, it's okay that I don't get sick days? Well,
it is the employer's decision whether right now whether to give sick days or not. But because it's been accepted as a type of benefit that people expect and need to take care of themselves and their families, a large percentage of people get it. Some people, because in the smaller number of cases, but where people have a union that represents it, they also can get sick days. But it's the employer doesn't have to do it. And unfortunately, what's arisen is just like some people get very low wages, even though they work hard in certain jobs. The people who get low wages often don't get benefits. They may not get health benefits. They may not get sick days. So this is an effort to try to get people this benefit of sick days. We also worked in the same last 2 years to raise the minimum wage. We also, parallel to collecting the signatures for the earned sick time, we collected 190,000 signatures of voters to raise the minimum wage. And that was instrumental. The legislature in that case decided to pass an increase in the minimum wage of $3 an hour over the next 3 years. And that makes our law the highest state minimum wage, and it's going to help over 600,000 low-wage earners. But it was all because we got the signature. Had we not gotten the signatures, they probably would have passed maybe a $1 increase. But because we had the signatures and they knew we could go to the ballot, they passed a $3 increase, which is good. Unfortunately, on the other issue, on sick time, they decided not to act, so we had to file the signatures. And if we can win on November 4th the vote for yes on question 4, then it becomes a law as well.
Okay. Can you share with the audience who is pretty new or maybe just started out working for a business and now they're excited, hey, I get 5 days. Can you share with us the difference between earned sick time and vacation time? And they can somehow...
It depends on the company. Earned sick, some companies have very explicitly sick days is when you're sick, and vacation is what the number of weeks they allow you for vacation, and they're separate. Some companies now have combine them. I think they call it sometimes PTO, paid time off. Some companies combine vacation days, sick days, and personal days. Some companies separate them and you get a certain amount of each. Some companies give, say, 50, you have 15 days and you can use them for some combination of vacation, sick days, and personal days. So it depends on the company. Sometimes they're combined and you have to spread them over those 3 uses. And sometimes they're separate. You get 2 personal days and you get 7 sick days and you get 2 weeks vacation. So it depends on the company. How your benefits. But then unfortunately there's this whole big group of almost 1 million low-wage earners primarily who don't get any sick days. Often they may get vacation, but a lot of them don't get any vacation either. So it's a tough situation.
So if you you have earned sick time and that year you don't get sick at all, you don't really use them, does it go over to
It doesn't carry over. It's
Okay.
just those days per year.
It's those
If you're covered by this new law where you get up to the 5, there are some businesses that already give you sick days, and then it depends on their policy. Sometimes they let you carry some over, sometimes they don't.
Okay. And, you know, obviously that if you want to know more about earned sick time, you'll reach out to your HR, and I'm sure this is pretty new to the HR department also. Can you share with us, like, the hours? How many hours do you have to work to earn, like, 1 hour sick time?
Yes, it's about, you have to work 30 hours to earn 1 hour of sick time, and then the maximum hours you can earn is 40 hours, which would be the same as 5 days. But someone who worked part-time, let's say you work 20 hours a week, then you might earn 2.5 days of sick time. So someone who works part-time can earn a certain number of hours of sick time as well.
Okay.
Again, this is focused on the 30% of people who work in jobs that get no sick days. This would allow them up to 5. The people who already get sick days in their jobs, it doesn't change that. They already have the right and the benefit. But this is to help the big group that doesn't have sick days. And sometimes you change jobs and you could go from a job that gave you sick days and have to take a job that didn't. So then that's not good, and you would want a law like this to pass to protect yourself or those people, those friends, relatives, neighbors that you care about that are in these jobs.
Absolutely. I think we mentioned about the balance between employees and business already, and you mentioned that you have quite a big support from business owners.
There are some, we have some good business support from very large employers. A lot of the hospitals have endorsed this, but the Alliance for Business Leadership has a broad set of business. There are some businesses that are against it, mostly the associations of the retailers and the restaurant associations, because they have the most number of workers. But we think this is a moral and a justice and a religious issue that everybody deserves some time to be able to take care of themselves and their families. And again, we don't think it's fair that some people have this benefit, which they should have, and some people don't, and that it's mostly based on like how much they're making and the power of some employers to, not be fair.
Okay, well, fair. All right, let's go talk about the Vietnamese involvement.
Sure.
Yes.
Sure, that's been very exciting. The people who were first involved were Mr. An Lee Dang from Dorchester, who's a leader at St. Ambrose Parish in Dorchester. He's also a small businessman who owns a redemption center. So he's a well-known leader in the Vietnamese community. And Mr. Hep Chu. Hep is also a leader at St. Ambrose Church. I think he's in charge of religious education. But some people know him. He was the director of VACA, and he also was the director of VATV at one time. So he has a long record. So they've been involved. And though he's not Vietnamese, Father Daniel Phin, who's been the long-term pastor of St. Mark's and the administrator of St. Ambrose, which both have a lot of Vietnamese members, he's been involved for a long time on this issue. And we met recently with Father Lin Nguyen at St. Bernadette's in Randolph, and he's going to try to get this information out to his parish because he said he thinks this is an important issue too. So those are some of the Vietnamese leaders who've been involved, and we, as an example of their involvement, besides doing the work, they help collect signatures to qualify the ballot. We wanted to have a flyer to give out to parishioners, so we gave this to Mr. Hep Chu and Mr. An Lee Dang, and they produced this Vietnamese flyer, and that people can use in publicizing this to the Vietnamese community for those who don't speak English.
Oh, great. Do you mind if I kind of briefly translate this to
Yes,
a Vietnamese audience?
That would be great.
Okay, thank you so much. I would like to translate that in Vietnamese for our Vietnamese audience who would like to learn more about the ballot question number 4. Kính thưa quý vị, nếu mà quý vị đi bầu ngày 4 tháng 11 thì xin quý vị nhớ bầu chữ yes cho kiến nghị câu hỏi số 4. Đó là question number 4. Câu hỏi cho phép quý vị có quyền được hưởng 5 ngày nghỉ bệnh trong một năm. Quý vị có thể lấy những ngày nghỉ đó cho chính mình khi quý vị bị bệnh hay là phải lo cho con cái hoặc là lo cho cha mẹ lớn tuổi. Và khi quý vị lấy những ngày nghỉ đó, quý vị vẫn được trả lương. Kính thưa quý vị, thì hiện tại quý vị có biết rằng có khoảng 1 triệu người đi làm ở trong tiểu bang Massachusetts bị cưỡng ép lựa chọn giữa việc đi làm khi đang bị bệnh hay nghỉ bệnh mà không có lương. Hay tệ hơn là có khi phải bị mất việc. Đôi khi có những trường hợp bắt buộc quý vị phải cho con em bị bệnh của mình đi học vì quý vị phải đi làm để lãnh lương để được giữ công việc của mình. Thì quý vị nhớ là bầu cái chữ yes cho câu số 4 để mà được bảo vệ cái quyền lợi này. Thì như ông director Finfer hồi nãy có nói là ở nhà thờ, 2 cái nhà thờ chính hiện tại bây giờ đang cho thêm những cái thông tin về cái số 4 này là ở nhà thờ St. Parish và nhà thờ St. Bernadette ở tại Randolph. Thì sẽ có cha Linh Nguyễn ở tại St. Bernadette ở thành phố Randolph sẽ nói thêm về cho chi tiết về cái ballot question số 4 này cho quý vị. Thì quý vị nhớ là bầu cho chữ yes cho số 4 để quý vị có thể giữ được cái quyền lợi cho quý vị để được thêm những cái ngày mà quý vị có thể nghỉ bệnh. Based on this translation, I love the fact that it was mentioning about a lot of people, especially if you have a family. And I just have a daughter recently. Myself, she's 11 months. Thank you. And I realized how important it is. When I was working before, I never really took any sick days, and I didn't care too much, because I don't have anybody depending on me.
Yes.
But now I do realize that as my parents are getting older, I would like to be there for them at the hospital. And I thought at first it was just really for yourself.
Right.
But now to come thinking about it, all these, especially for you and all these people who's been working so hard on this project, they're really thinking of bigger. Because if you have a family, you want to take days off for your kids. And it applies for your family.
Yes, you can take days off for your kids if you're sick, or if you have relatives who are sick, you can take kids to be with them, to drive them to medical appointments. So it's very important. Like when my mother was sick from lung cancer, because I worked for a nonprofit that gave us sick days, and I was able to drive her to medical appointments and be with her more in her dying days. I would have done that anyway, but probably if I didn't have sick days, I couldn't have done as much, and I would have felt not doing my duties. But I should. It's not fair that I was able to do that, and other people don't get sick days, so they either can't do as much as they would feel they should for their family, or if they do it anyway, they don't get paid, and they lose all that pay. So it's not a fair situation to put people in.
And especially if you're loyal to a company, and as you mentioned earlier, if you work 30 hours, you actually earn 1 hour.
Right. Right. And there are a lot of good employers who give people sick days. 70% of companies do give people sick days.
Yeah.
Some, and probably even a smaller portion of the companies who don't give sick days, if their employee asks for it, may grant it, just be out of decency, but they don't have to, and a lot of them choose intentionally not to. We know, like in Walmart, as a big company, a big employer, doesn't pay people very much wages. We were told by Walmart employees, if you're sick, they say, okay, but take a vacation day to pay, so they're basically not giving them sick days. They're saying, well, use your vacation because you're sick, and that's not right. But that's what goes on, and that's an incredibly powerful corporation with makes them huge amounts of money. So they don't have to do that, and they would still do well.
Wow.
So that's a concern. And Marshalls, TJ Maxx, Home Goods, we learned that they have a business model. They said that they pay people to work part-time. They think it's because people want to make part-time work, but most people want full-time work, and because you have to pay benefits if you employ people full-time, they're employing people part-time. But I went into I went into one of the stores in Roxbury, TJ, and I said, "Do you get any sick days?" And they said, "No part-timers get any sick days." Under this law, they would qualify for some days, some sick days.
Okay. So
I also forgot to mention your sponsor, VATV. They also collected several hundred signatures for the minimum wage and earned sick days, and they're doing some education among the membership of VATV too. So they've been another Vietnamese community leader that's been helpful and worked on this campaign.
Oh, I think it's absolutely important. Now, after just talking to you about it, I looked back before.
Yes.
When you call in sick and you said that, oh no, I don't get paid for my sick time, and you get worried because your paycheck is going to be less.
Yes.
And then it seems like nobody wants to be sick, but if it happens, you got to take care of yourself, or else you come in, you're sick. That's not good either.
Right. Exactly.
So I think it's so important. Just really thinking about it now.
Yes, in restaurants, there's also a lot of the hospitals in Massachusetts have supported this, because they know if people stay home when they're sick, they're more likely to get better, or they're more likely to go to a neighborhood health center or a hospital, and then things are treated sooner. If people don't stay home when they're sick because they have no sick days and can't afford to, and they go to work sick, they could infect people at work, or their situation doesn't get diagnosed and it gets worse, and then that gets diagnosed later when they're more ill. So all these hospitals, Mass General Hospital, Peter Bent Brigham, Tufts New England Medical Center, Children's Hospital, Boston Medical Center, all the Boston hospitals have endorsed Question 4 because of the preventative health and public health issues, that are involved in and that earned sick time would benefit too.
You mentioned earlier how this is related to healthcare.
Yes.
Can you share more about that?
Just all those, one of the stories that we met a group of medical students who are working on this. We met last Saturday, and one of the persons who came was a doctor in the emergency room at one of the major hospitals in Boston. And he said when someone comes in, who's a restaurant worker, and they have they cut themselves and they have a serious injury on their hand, which happens frequently in restaurants because you have very sharp tools and you're cutting people. When he writes a prescription, the prescription is not only the medicine, but it's also the instructions for the patient to get better. And he said, so he would write this prescription saying, here's the medicine, and don't go to work for 3 days. And then some of the same people would appear back in the emergency room 2 or 3 days later, and because their stitches would come out because they couldn't afford to stay home because they didn't have any sick days. So he got upset about it, and he said, what I shouldn't be just writing these prescriptions about what they should do when they can't do it. I should be working to try to get earned sick days so people do have the those health care rights to take care of themselves. So I thought that was very moving that he saw that and also was willing to act on that. So there are very important healthcare reasons to have sick days and for everyone. Absolutely.
So remember to vote yes for ballot question number 4. Mr. Finfer, thank you so much for being here with us today. How should voter vote? Share with us.
Well, here's our bumper sticker.
Okay.
Which I can leave you. But it's a vote yes on question 4. You have to remember when you vote on election day, when you go into the ballot, the first names that you vote for are the governor and all the other candidates for office. And after the candidates for office come 4 questions. The first question is about the gas tax. The second question is about the bottle bill. The third question about casino. And the fourth question is earned sick days. So you have to take your time and vote yes or no on each one as it, go down the ballot. But question 4 is the one we're urging you to vote yes on, so that people can all get earned sick time. And if you're a voter, you get to make the law if you vote yes. And if you're listening, you're not a voter. If you know people who are voters, please tell them about this.
Okay. So remember, if you're a voter, you can make the law. November 4th. Okay, November 4th, 2014. This is it. Write yes on your notebook right now to ballot question number 4. Thank you so much again.
Thank you for having me, and thanks to VATV for sponsoring this and working already on ballot question 4.
Absolutely. Well, we want to thank you so much for tuning in the first half of our program. Please stay tuned for the second half of the program. Thank you.